great piece of Bodhisattva presents. What kind of activities did Janchev Dichil Monastery organize during last few years? As far as I know, the monks from the monastery have chanted Zot Lujing mantra at the roads with most frequent accidents in order to reduce the accidents and prevent such accidents, which I believe was a very productive work. With regard to roads with high frequency of accidents, we label it as black spots. We did a 32-episode TV program, along with TV9 channel, traffic police, and Janchev Dichil Monastery. Basically, it means we have chanted mantras at 32 different locations. Also, we have chanted mantras for well-being in the coming Lunar New Year, twice free of charge at the Boindhwa complex, which involved almost 10,000 people. We created 2 5 meters tall, each green and white Tara statues of rock on top of Chingiltay mountain for the sake of protecting 1 million residents of Ulaanbaatar city from untimely evils and suffering sudden accidents. Our viewers are aware of another project that you have been working on, which is documentary series being developed with the support of the Swiss Development Agency. Could you please tell us more about it? In general, Mongolians have nomadic culture, hence our culture of our ancestors have been kept and manifested even in small items. Due to nomadic culture, we do not have big cities or big monumental buildings that conveys our culture. However, the Buddhist religion has been disseminated 3 times in Mongolia in the course of its history. First dissemination was about 2,500 years ago, during the Zainu Empire period. The second wave was during the age of Great Hans. There are now only a small number of monasteries and temples left today, which are being documented by Janchev Dichil Monastery in cooperation with the Swiss Development Agency, with an objective to document the architecture, temples, and its current conditions and history. With regard to paintings, we try to explain what is the painting art and what is Tanka painting, along with the history of origins, from the technique of painting Buddha from his reflection on the water about 2,500 years ago to modern-day methods, also unique to Mongolia applique. Also unique to Mongolia applique method, which uses silk to create the gods. Even during the Zainu Empire period, Mongolians used to practice applique methods. Applique method is a technique of couch and stitch to illustrate certain patterns and shapes. Basically, it is a painting by sewing. This is a fascinating, unique Mongolian culture. Between 16th to 19th centuries, Mongolians have developed its technique to its peak. So we made one whole episode just on the applique method. Since the time of origin of human, Stone Age, Bronze Age, people have started molding things. Since the start of using arrowheads, needles, and molding, Mongolians in 16th to 19th centuries elevated the molding craftsmanship to unique, unparalleled levels, and we made a specific episode on this subject only. After creating this episode, we made episodes on arts of 16th to 19th centuries Mongolia's arts with an objective of portraying how great it was, how it developed to such heights, how artworks were made, and how much efforts and labor it needed. It is most likely that you have a goal behind all of these efforts in making the project with the Swiss Development Agency. How many countries do you plan to broadcast this program in, and what would be the effect of this program? My understanding is that there has been no such comprehensive documentary in Mongolia. Mongolians, especially the younger generation, have totally different tastes. Most of the interests revolve around smartphones,— Facebook, Twitter, which become the daily use tools. My objective was to show our people our great cultural heritage and how great spiritual development and essence our ancestors had. Secondly, to show the world how much influence Mongolians had on the development of these arts and how we are preserving these cultural heritages.
Одоо бас хадгалагдаад үлдсэн байна гэдгийг мэдүүлэн таниулахын тухайд гол зорилго бол энэ байна да.
Obviously, such project covers lots of historical research, multidisciplinary historical sources, and many interviews with the experts. How much time did the research take? Basically, the project involved a professional researcher, 4 professional Lamas researchers, and myself, namely a team of 9 people conducted 5 months research. Initially, our research approach was to understand the nature of our subject. Afterwards, we did site visits to the temples and acquired footages of the sites covering a distance of around 20,000 kilometers in total. Also, we collected several terabytes of data. After such efforts, the 4 episodes of our documentary was made. After approximately 1 year of work, these 4 episodes are being finished. We have numerous additional projects lined up. Initially, the episodes will be in Mongolian and English languages. In the future, we plan to translate it into 4 or 5 languages and to broadcast it to the world.
Дэлхий дахина цацхыг ирмэлцэж байна да.
Таны хувьд одоо яг энэ нэвтрүүлэг дээр
What were your impressions of meetings with various sources while working on this project? What were the things made you proud and things made you regret?
төрсөн байхыг үүсэхгүй тийм ээ.
Эхлээд бол
My first impressions were filled with regret. We have destroyed around 2,500 temples and monasteries that were magnificent artworks into ruins, which is a great loss to Mongolian culture. Afterwards, my emotions were filled with pride. I was impressed how much masterpieces were made when there was no modern-day equipment and made contribution to the world cultural heritage. Also, I have observed that Mongolians never aimed to build monumental buildings such as castles, palaces for themselves. The nobles and Hans all lived in Mongolian traditional gears. Instead, Mongolians have utmost importance in investing in their spiritual development. They used to devote whatever they possessed, their properties, treasures, or even their bodies, to find enlightenment and to direct their minds into right direction. In that aspect, Mongolians are very enlightened people.
монголчууд үнэхээр гэгээлэг арт түмэн.
Дахин давтаж шүү бүтээлүүд их бас.
During the production, certain people cited examples that Mongolian Buddha sculptures are very unique and unparalleled in the world.
Хүмүүс их ярьж яриа л те. Энд дээр таны бодол.
Энэ нэвтрүүлгүүдээр
It is very evident during the program. For instance, His Holiness Zanbazar made masterpieces that were unique not only in Mongolia, Asia, but in the world. For instance, appliques or silk paintings are unique in the world. The sheer physical size of the arts was astounding. The amount of effort and labors of many were amazing. These masterpieces are shown in the program in detail with its origin and dates. In general, Mongolian people have very high intellectual capacity. Hence, our ancestors were aware of this and made these magnificent masterpieces. So my first objective was to let the younger generation to better understand these facts. My second objective was to let the world know how much cultural influence Mongolia had and what a great cultural heritage we have. Third objective was to inherit our cultural values and treasures to the next generation. Through these programs, I want Mongolians to revisit the culture, lifestyle, and heritage, and possibly to implement and practice certain aspects in their lives, and to digest it in their minds. Hard works of a large team and efforts of many individuals have made the 4 episodes on Mongolian traditional architecture, sculpture, applique, and paintings of 16th to 19th century Mongolia, initiated by the Genchev Dichino Monastery, happen. I would like to sincerely thank everyone who was involved in this process. Most importantly, I would like to thank the Swiss Development Agency for the contribution to preserving Mongolian cultural heritage for Mongolia's next generations.
Соёлыг хойч үедээ үлдээхэд гүн тусалцаа үзүүлсэн Швейцарын хөгжлийн агентлагта бас их баярлсан талархснаа илэрхийлж байна.
What would you like to convey to television channels that will broadcast this 4-episode documentary to the Mongolian viewers? I'm hopeful and at the same time confident that we have managed to produce a program that embodies Mongolian cultural heritage as per our initial plans. Hence, I urge the television channels to broadcast this program to the best of capacity and, most importantly, to try to get the attention of our younger generation towards this television program. Thank you for your time and wish you success in your future endeavors. Thank you. Janchiv Dechinlo Monastery presents. We are presenting you the television program on architectures, sculptures, appliques, and paintings of the 16th to 19th century Mongolia. Today, we will present you the program on sculptures, more precisely on the molded Buddhist sculptures. If we present it to a person in a 3D, one's perception becomes more live and closer to reality. It is presented in a realistic, balanced with motion. Our ancestors used to give the title of blacksmith to a person who mastered the artistic skills, craftsmanship skills, and visual skills. Mongolians have reached the pinnacle of the molding sculpture arts. Since His Holiness Zanbazar was an enlightened man, his creations of gods have souls. I view that there is no relic creations that match His Holiness Zanbazar's molded Buddha sculptures. When question arises that who represents Mongolian art in the world scene, the name of High Saint Zanbazar comes out.
16-аас 19-р зууны шуумал буюу
Art of molding. Since the time of origin of human, the molding technique. Fine examples are many archaeological findings found throughout Mongolia. From 2000 BC, in the steppes of Eurasia, the bronze items were widespread. The bronze weapon area began when a new alloy metal was produced from the alloy of copper with lead and tin. Many findings of ore mines, bronze smelters, bronze molders are being found across Mongolia. Researchers believe around this time the molding arts began. It is evident from the findings from the Zainu Empire period that around this time Mongolians mastered the iron casting techniques. Iron casting technique reached its pinnacle during Zainu Empire period, where gold plating of iron, gold plating of copper, molding techniques were used. Around this time, creative arts among the blacksmiths developed, and it reflected on the domestic jewelry items with intricate designs decorated with patterns, flowers, animals, birds, using various blacksmith techniques. The blacksmith techniques have been developing ever since and reached its peak in the 17th century. At that period, in order to preserve cultural heritage, His Holiness Zanbazar developed the architecture, tanka painting, silk applique, sculpture, especially molding techniques through Buddhist religion culture to pass down them to future generations. Furthermore, he made a contribution to the Buddhist creative arts by Mongolian school of craftsmanship, which is recorded in the historical sources. Thai Saint Zanabazar. He occupies a high position in the world classical arts. The molded Buddha statues are pure perfections. This is the only representative of the fine arts of Central Asian Mongolian people in the world. The molding technique developed to its highest form. It is very delicate. It really proves the genius and talent of His Holiness, where he had created such masterpieces during such dark ages of turmoil in the mind of medieval period. Structural grid of paintings and that of sculptures greatly differ. For instance, according to measurements of paintings, a person's arm is 4 fingers in width. In the case of molded sculptures, you would normally multiply it by 3 times. His Holiness artworks have divine presence. Hence, it is a divine art. Divine creations clearly show how high His Holiness's intellectual potentials were. His Holiness Zanabazar reached the title of Pandita, skilled in 5 sciences. He was a master at creation of iconography, tanka paintings, sculptures. The Buddhas that His Holiness created are fully molded and hollow inside. It is fascinating that his creations have no seams. It is fascinating. It is still a mystery how he molded his creations without the aid of modern technology. Mongolians have reached the highest form of molding arts through various techniques of fully molding and partially molding, etc.
Энэ монголчууд хийж байгаа юм л та.
Complex molding techniques require very delicate, precise technology, and according to modern standards, it's almost a standalone science.
Инжилгээний ажиллагч үг л дээ.
Өндөргийн Занбазар.
The first Bog Thai Saint Zanabazar was a man who opened a new chapter in the Mongolian history, and during his lifetime achieved and accomplished so many masterpieces that will be remembered through thousands of generations. His Holiness Zanabazar created tanka paintings, sculptures reflecting philosophy, beauty, and inner soul, and developing Buddhist art's structural grid to the highest form of real human beauty. To mention about the history of his creations and techniques,
2-3 хэмжээний
there were 2 or 3 techniques. One of it is to mix the clay in a thin manner and to apply the slurry on the sculpture by brush. Afterwards, consistently apply it on the sculpture every day until it reaches 1 centimeter thick. It was never made full covered. Then burn it inside the oven, and once it finishes, it becomes hollow. Then you apply wet clay from the inside. Fill it densely and similarly fill it densely from the outside too, and make sure it sticks together. The molding is done from the bottom, usually from the feet or the foundation. Most importantly, in order to get the mold design, you most completely drain the filling from the inside and must burn the mold in a high temperature. At least burn it at 1000 to 1200 Celsius temperature. This process ensures that the mold is durable and without any cracks. Once the mold is being burnt in the oven, specially mixed bronze is to be smelted into a liquid form and applied into the mold. Once applied the bronze into the mold, after 3 to 5 months, the molded sculpture is gently removed with help of a special tool. Then you get the metal sculpture. If the metal has rough parts, then you use special blacksmith techniques to smooth off such parts. If there are any cracks, you would weld it. Thereby, various techniques are used. This is how the molding process goes in general sense. Afterwards, you will use your visual skills, hand skills, and mental skills to create a beautiful creation. Usually, it is molded very thin and hollow. Hence, the molded Buddha are very light. Paint usually don't stick on metal very well. At one point, it will always wear off. Hence, gilding suits better. His Holiness created many beautiful Buddha statues. My teacher did research and assessed the structural grids of all the world-renowned pieces. during the research creations of His Holiness had perfect symmetry, not an inch of error. This is one aspect that Mongolian artworks are renowned for. Many religious icons of the world were studied in compliance with the doctrine of Buddha. This is the very art of molding. However, it is a pure magic when a molded piece dimensions are more precise than a painting and perfectly crafted from above, below, and from the sides. The Green Tara is a very famous piece. It is a 108 finger size, or in other words, 9 hammers dimensions. Using such dimensions, the measurements have such symmetry, even from behind and from all sides. If you closely study His Holiness Zanabazar works and differences among the pieces, the Green Tara features inner beauty, mildness of a mother. With regard to White Tara, it is one of the phenomenal works of the High Saint. The masterpiece embodies both inner and outer beauty, essence of a young woman with perfect symmetry and forms. The 21 Tara masterpiece is unique in the world and a great contribution to the world cultural heritage. This is why it is a world-class masterpiece. Also its design, craftsmanship are fascinating. The Achurdari goddess, Tanka, bronze statues of main 5 Buddhist deities, 8 silver stupas created by High Saint Zanabazar are widely praised by both Eastern and Western countries and being protected as a world heritage. This fact is a proof of Mongolians' contribution to the world arts and treasure heritage. To create a sculpture of a Buddha, it is important to create it with perfect symmetry and to decorate it with cloths, attributive garments, and accessories. On top of all 3 aspects, it is important that the cloths don't overshadow the body, and the cloths not overshadowing the decorations. Hence, having all 3, but in a perfectly balanced manner, such body evidently looks magnificent. These Buddha sculptures have no arrows. No imperfections are visible from all angles. Everything was done with perfect dimensions. Even though it was molded from metal, the body looks flexible, the hand looks fleshy, almost seems like the veins have pulse, and the body has a fleshy flexibility. This is how it becomes precious gemstone and timeless masterpiece. This is deity that creates clouds, and clouds are distressed. Even though in size it is the smallest, it has the perfect design solutions. This is the pinnacle of High Saint masterpieces. The Achurdari goddess created by His Holiness is the most precious goddess of Mongolia and monasteries. This is a fine and unmatched sample of having qualities of holy light and transparent qualities embedded in a sculpture. If you would compare artworks of the High Saint to other similar pieces from around the world, the first had perfect dimensions and symmetry. This piece was created into perfect masterpiece. The molding technique spread by High Saint in the 16th century has brought great new evolutions to the Buddhist religion of Mongolia. The Nepalese, Chinese, and Tibetan schools of creating Buddha statues emphasized on creating them larger and in a more magnificent way than humans. In contrary, High Saint school declared that humans become gods through enlightening, which revolutionized the concept of religion at that time. High Saint Zanabazar had an important role in the social and political life of 17th century Mongolia, as well as made an invaluable contribution to the religious and cultural development. The Zanabazar sculptures are based on delicate molding techniques of highest craftsmanship. As of today, there is a label in the world Buddhist artwork at Zanabazar School of Craftsmanship, which is still being practiced. For instance, Zanabazar and his school introduced a full molding technique, a fascinating way of casting. European and modern sculptors mold the pieces separately, then make it together, whereas Zanabazar used to mold full one piece. This is fascinating. The school of craftsmanship that was established by His Holiness is something that we should be proud of, develop and preserve it as Mongolians. This is a Buddha sculpture crafted by Zanabazar school technique. From the front and sides, all the dimensions are perfect. We have conducted a study on the proportions of Tibetan, Bhutanese, Chinese, and Oriental famous Buddha sculptures. The breastworks showed only 60% of matching with the structural grid. There are no Buddha sculptures that are 100% perfect. With the establishment of Zanabazar School of Craftsmanship, it had immense influence on the Buddhist sculpture, especially on the art of casting. Until today, the apprenticeship traditions are still carried on since the days of the High Saint. In the Mongolian blacksmith, there is strong concept and tradition of apprenticeship. Apprentices usually start off by polishing the anvil. The anvil will be polished only manually with help of our sandpaper. This takes long time, polishing it for a week, maybe. After such hard work, the anvil will be smooth. The top surface will have no cracks. This process instills in the apprentice an attitude of caring for his anvil and care for his tools in the future. What is fascinating about training your apprentice is that it takes at least 5 to 10 years to train the best apprentice. In the school of Zanabazar, in addition to the molding, there are lots of deity statues that were made by way of embossing. So it is evident that the High Saint was a master at embossing. Through embossing technique, gold, silver, and brass was hammered to create embossed artworks. This delicate technique was still carried to our modern days. So for metallic pieces, in order to create certain shapes, this technique enables a clearer our expressions. It is important that the expression comes out clear. Hence, the preference of material is not important as long as you are using the material to clearly show the intended expression. Also, we should have discriminated the piece based on its size to say large pieces are beautiful and smaller pieces are shallow, cheaper. It's a matter of fine craftsmanship and matter of crafting it correctly. It is important when creating a Buddha sculpture. It is created in strict compliance with the rules in order to give it a soul and divine presence rather than having concept that large Buddha statues are better and smaller pieces are not great. We are still finding clay Buddha statues that have been done in the days of the High Saint. I am confident that there are lots of hidden treasures yet to be found in the vast Mongolian steppes. Such artworks and treasures are still being found. Just recently from the Saritak temple, we found many Buddha statues that were made of clay processed into ceramic by burning. These clay Buddhas were almost identical to the molded ones. On the clay Buddha, the decorations and ornaments were also made almost like you had painted on them and were so delicate that if you press hard, it might crack. Similar to the molded pieces, we found hundreds of such Buddha statues. Ceramic legs of Buddhas from an inch to 3 or 4 meter tall in size were also found. Archaeological studies reveal even more items attesting that Mongolians have mastered the ceramic sculpture arts and developed at high level.
Одоо энэ археологийн судалгаар улам бүр батлагдсан гарч ирсээр байна.
Saridag Monastery.
Монголын анх дугаар богд өндөргийг
The Saridag Monastery construction began on the 20th birthday of the first Bogd, High Saint Zanabazar, or in year of 1654, the year of Blue Horse, on a place called Khinti Khan, on the foothills of Dilgir Uljit mountain. In order to fully finish this monastery, it took 32 years of construction works. In 1686, it was fully completed. However, only after 2 years of its completion, in 1688, it was fully destroyed due to internal conflicts in Mongolia. As a result of tension between Khalkha and Oryat Mongols, Altan Boshikt, Khan of Oryats, moved his army towards the monastery, who fully destroyed the Ribogijai Kanden Shedubli monastery, which has not been restored until early 21st century. Also, approximately 3,400 sculptures of main 5 deities, large clay Buddha statues, and approximately 10 large 1.5 meter tall Buddha statues have been found. Until recent days, it was debatable that Zanabazar's artwork included clay or ceramic pieces. However, these archaeological findings, including these clay and ceramic pieces, have made a significant breakthrough in the Zanabazar legacy studies. Clay molding is the main tool for molding technique. This is inseparable from the metals. It is evident that the High Saint's molding technique was at a very high level at that time. A very large natural furnace was built where, with help of wind power coming through the crack of the furnace, the brass was smelted and molds were made when heated. Initially, wax was used for making pieces to obtain clay molds. In Mongolia, there are many places with its own unique features. There are lots of sites that have various types of clays suitable for artworks. Depending on clay qualities, clay Buddha statues can be very sophisticated in design and made with more fine craftsmanship. Clay combined with paper can be used for shaping techniques. If multiple copies are needed, molds are made for moldings. Clay is commonly found in Mongolia. The clay is mixed with various ingredients, such as paper, and crushed into powder to dry a substance, to plasticine. Even though the blacksmith's art is mute and speechless, it brings spiritual enlightenment to people through its motion. That's blacksmith art. Aside from the Buddhist deity sculptures created by means of molding, there is a wide range of artifacts of this kind. Gold and silver teapots, pots delicately crafted by molding techniques, embody the traditions. Mongolian clay arts and art of molding, in particular, is the pinnacle of the sculpture art. We have developed it into such heights. The 4-episode documentary on Mongolian architecture, paintings, sculpture, and applique ends here.
16-аас 19-р зууны Монголын өв соёлыг баримтжуулах энэхүү төсөл хөтөлбөрийг хэрэгжүүлэхэд гүн тусалцаа үзүүлсэн Швейцарын хөгжлийн агентлагт гүн талархлаа илэрхийлье. Жанжив Дэчлэн хийдийн Хамблам Шенин Генцэл